Well, later this week, the Prime Minister will receive a letter from Esther, whose daughter Brianna was murdered last year by two 15-year-olds.
Esther has been campaigning for more mental well-being support for school children across Warrington, where she lives, Brianna's hometown. And now she's calling on Sir Keir Starmer to try to roll out her campaign across England. Esther joins us now live on the sofa alongside Emily Slater, who's Chief Executive of the Mindfulness in Schools project. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Esther, I know you've told us before about how mindfulness has helped you over, the incredibly difficult time you and the family have been through. I think mindfulness is a word that a lot of people will hear and don't necessarily know what it is. What is mindfulness to you? What kind of things are we talking about?
For me, mindfulness is it's building that mental strength. It's exercise for your brain. So just as we would have PE in schools to improve physical well-being, we need this in schools to improve mental well-being as well.
What kinds of things?
So, for example, I personally like to meditate. So every morning I will try to get up and do 10 minutes of meditation, and also like mindful walking. So that was something that really helped me when Brianna passed away. So me and my eldest daughter would go for walks, and we would. And this was like really in the aftermath of Brianna's killing, and we would notice all the small things, so like the bird sound, the cherry blossom on the trees, the pink skies in the evening, and like this, being able to take that time and be present in the present moment, it really helps, especially when you're going through something so difficult. And like, as I said before, it's inevitable. We're all going to go through hard times, and we need these tools in our back pockets to be able to fall on when we're going through stress and trauma.
And you already had that tool. You already regularly practised mindfulness before the horrendous trauma and grief that came to you. How important has it been in that period of processing?
I would go as far to say that mindfulness saved my life. So I've been practising mindfulness for about 10 years now, and I think that I've managed to build this level of mental resilience and level of like self-compassion and empathy towards myself and towards other people, that when this happened, I was already... It was almost like it was a safety net. So I had this strong mind that was able to get me through that grief. And earlier on in life, I struggled with my mental health when I was in my early 20s. And I always think to myself, if that had happened to me then, it would have been a completely different story. And this is why it's so important. It's important to look after your physical health and to make your body strong, but it's really important to make your mind strong, because I think that once you've got a strong mind, everything else will follow.
It's interesting you said that you had that foundation first, because I know every time you've been in to talk to us over the last year or so since you lost Brianna, that our viewers get in touch and say, how is Esther so together? How can she function? How can she be so strong? But you're saying that this is how, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like, I don't always feel strong, and I get nervous when I'm doing things like this. But, like, for example, you can, if you're doing interviews or if you're doing public speaking, you can feel your feet on the floor. You can bring yourself into, like, the present moment as well. So it even helps with things like this. But yeah, and I'm not saying that grief is easy. And it was, like, the following months after Brianna's death, it was so difficult. It was so hard to deal with. But having that, like I say, having that level of mental resilience there in the first place, it really did. And having those tools like the mindful walking, being able to go out and just realise that even though you're in the middle of this tragedy, there's still beauty in the world. I think it's so important for everybody to have this. And this is why I started the campaign, because I just wanted to give the gift of mindfulness to our children. Because at the minute, there's a lack of mental resilience. There's anxiety. Brianna struggled with anxiety. She had an eating disorder. She was self-harming. And she is not the only teenager. There's so many other teenagers that are struggling.
And Emily, it can be quite simple things, can't it? I was talking to Esther about, I've only discovered mindfulness in the last few years, in my 40s, and I wish I had sooner, because even a few deep breaths can make all the difference to those hormones that can start running around. So beginning it in school, when children are very receptive to learning new things, could be really key.
I think that's, yeah, exactly. We're at Mindfulness in Schools project, we are really passionate about, yes, giving these tools now for children to use now. Some of them will fly with them now, but we're also increasingly excited about giving children tools that can be used across their life course. And so many people I speak to, myself included, would say, why didn't we learn about this in school? And part of the privilege of my role is I get to go in to schools and see this happening, and seeing primary school children able to label parts of their own mind and explain what is happening when they're having a stress reaction and how their amygdala is kicking off and how they need to bring their prefrontal cortex in. And they can do that with simple tools that we can teach them through their teachers. You see how they are teaching the adults, actually. And that, I think, sometimes gets missed out of this, that we're also teaching basic neuroscience, which, why don't we teach that to our young people when up here we're wandering around with this amazing mind and we only know a fraction about it?
Take us into the classroom then. If we walked into a mindfulness lesson, what would we see? What would it look like?
Yeah, it can be tailored very much to the class. So that's a really important thing to get across, because I think there's an idea that mindfulness is everybody sitting down, cross-legged, in silence and doing all of that. Actually, our age-specific curricula, they are tailored to that particular age group. So if you're teaching a 3, 4, 5-year-old, you're going to be
young.
Yeah, that young. You're going to be doing a lot of physical activity, getting them moving, getting them stopping, tuning into how they're feeling. It's all about finding anchors. So your body, your breath, maybe what you're eating, what you're drinking, all of these things can be used as tools to bring people into the present moment.
Esther, there might be parents and teachers watching. Emily said, why not teach it to young people? They might be saying, we are already rammed in the curriculum, all of the core subjects, physical activity. There's no space for this. What would you say to that?
I think that this is something that the government needs to get behind, whether this is changing the curriculum, getting it fitted into the curriculum somehow, but we need to free up time for this, because it is so important, because I've spoke to so many teachers and parents, and everybody is asking for this after me starting the campaign. I was at a wellbeing festival on Saturday and I did a talk, and there was 2 teachers in the audience, and at the end we had a Q&A. One of them said, we're just outside of Warrington, when are you rolling it out to us? And then the other one stood up and was like, when are you... So teachers are calling for this because they can see that their students need this support, and it's not only students that it will be helping as well, but it's teachers too. So
because of the behavioural impact.
Yeah, the behavioural the behavioural impact. I can't get my words out, sorry. But also for teachers to have that mindfulness practice too, because that's something that's really important with the Mindfulness in Schools project, that it's completely embedded into the school, and teachers are looked after as well. Their mental health and well-being is cared for too.
I think it's a really important question as well, and we don't want teachers watching this to think, oh my God, here we go, there's another thing
to worry about
landing on our laps here. We know from the feedback that teachers are snowed under. So I think, as Esther's saying, there's a kind of a need for the government to look holistically at this. We also know that teachers, when they have a chance to do it, and they need to do it because they want to do it. That's the other thing. This is not about forcing it on people. But when they do it, it can help them, we know, with reduced burnout and all these things.
OK. Thank you both so much, Esther. It's always really good to see you. Thank you for coming and sharing again. And Emily as well. Thank you. All the best.
Both got a very calming aura from that mindfulness. Thank you.